What you working on, Rob?
I have my slideshow to play. Agree with us.
So did you eat in a restaurant?
There we go.
No, I sent you a text on that.
Testing. That's right. It says in. Testing. All right, Mr. Skoog, if you would kindly take your seat. Did you talk with Raleigh about giving an update?
I think I can really make it from John's place to my place.
Kevin, would you like the microphone?
I didn't do that. We went 120 on 70%. Oh, okay. So we're 30 left.
Oyez, all persons having business for this August body draw near you will be heard. The Honorable J. Dunaway presiding, all rise, all sit. Mr. President, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Town Crier. All right. Well, welcome to this meeting of SeattleEVA with the hottest subject on the block, electric vehicles.
On the hottest day on the block.
One thing we try to do is recognize those who are here for the first time or the first time in a long time. So if that describes you, please, if you wouldn't mind, stand, be recognized, and tell us what brings you here. Madam. Thank you, Tamara. EV6. What cried out to you about that particular model? It drove so perfectly. Yes, it does. I drove the EV8. It was quick, but felt a little larded up. The big SUV. The 9, yes, the 9. So I drove it and I said 9.
Repeat what you hear so we get it recorded.
I will repeat what I hear so we get it recorded. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Mark. I'm here with Elvis Jordan. I've been here before, but I think it's an annual thing. We now have a laser EV. Now we waited the 4 months for the stop shortage. But I'm also doing a conversion of a 52 pickup truck, turning it into a Tesla Model 3. And if people need spare parts, I got parts.
What kind of 52 pickup truck?
International long deck.
The gentleman got basically 2 parts cars worth of parts to do 1 conversion. So if you need Model 3 battery modules or other cool gizmos, I highly recommend the seats out of a Model 3 for your conversion. They fit my posterior perfectly.
If you stand up and turn around, so you can see it.
Well, first, take the message and heed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Old, ancient, historical artifacts, and they were pretty cool. We had a minor hiccup at the beginning, but we got over that real quick. We were supposed to have 2 sides of Greenwood Avenue, but we only got 1 side, and it turned out great because I was standing at the beginning going, this block is all electric cars. So, and my car was between a Roadster and a Cybertruck. So everyone was coming over to see those 2 cars, and I just talked a lot. I'm sure a bunch of other people did too. And Ryan had a brilliant idea. I mean, Mark, what kind of Ryan? Brilliant! Incredible! So Ryan towed in the White Zombie, which is an electric dragster from it's a conversion. And he towed it in, and there's the car right there, and he left it on the trailer. And in the past, we always dropped the cars off, and the trailer off and all that kind of stuff. Well, towing it in was great because it made a nice display, and the Backy Coffee Museum and electric cars, they put some vintage cars there. And so it looked nicer than everybody else who was angle parked for 1.5 miles along Greenwood Avenue. So it really came out great, and it impressed John Harwood of the Greenwood Knights too. He thought we did great. So that was good. And then, oh yeah, there was a gentleman driving down. So when you go to Greenwood, there's you come in from the south end, and there's this huge line that's like 2 miles long, and then they start pulling the cars in, and they all start angle parking. And there was some poor guy who's had a Polestar 2, and he was going to park his beautiful car next to stinky gas cars, and we just wheeled him over, and he joined us. And he actually did a Facebook post during the show about how he was in the EV row. So that was fun. And then Grace, she didn't get to bring her Model Y because she had traveled around the world in it, and it was a little dusty. But she did man the booth, or woman the booth, and then thank you very much, because there was nobody else over there. We were all busy yakking. And then I read today there was estimated 40,000 people that attended that show. So that is like, T-Mobile Field, where the Mariners play, they can only have 47,000. So gives you an idea of how many people showed up to this show. And at least 10,000 of them walked past our cars. And I accosted many thousands of them. Come over, look at the cars. So that's me. I'm a frustrated sales guy, I guess. There were over 1,000 cars at the show. So it is the biggest show, there's a car show in Washington, and maybe one of the biggest ever. Oh yeah, and there was a electric scooter, and it's shaped like a cassette tape from Honda. It was really cool. And I think, in the future, we should have some of those sprinkled in among our cars, because we're electric vehicles, right? So a lot of people were looking that over. And then, this is my first time as a organizer, and I learned a lot. I'm going to try and record it so that next year I don't forget it all. We had an electric contractor who's for EV guys, and he was in our booth, and I think that worked out well. Yep. And
after great debate and consideration to avoid commercial endorsements and heed to our nonprofit mission, EV Guys was allowed to piggyback on our booth.
yeah.
Now he's a member, dues paid.
Yeah, he joined up. Oh yeah, Grace had a great idea for A-boards to set off our area. And I think that's kind of a good idea, but really I think maybe those big flags would be better. Because a lot of people are walking around going, they would trip over an A-board. But I think we should, Teresa knows how to do this. I think we should have these big flags for SeattleEVA. And, we had a lot of fun. And I came up with a list of ideas, like bring hand sanitizer, because you're going to shake a lot of hands. And then some people, some people said, every other car in my neighborhood is a Tesla. The right thing to say is, join the party.
There must be a reason.
Yeah. And I invited people to sit in my car, and I think I sold my car at least 3 times, really. Especially like older couples, because they got a little disposable income. And I said, you know, you should buy one of these, and then when you're done with it, you can give it to a grandkid. And I definitely, one person actually asked me, are you selling this car, please? But I said, nope, I'm keeping it.
And which car was that, for the record?
It's a Tesla Model 3.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's like, there's the Roadster, and people come over and they're looking at Mark's Roadster because it's really snazzy. And I say, you know, it's 150 grand and increasing in price. And they go, whoa. And then you look out, next to me was the Cybertruck, and there's 2 million people in front of you trying to get one. So I said, buy one of these. Tesla Model 3, and it, you know, it's like, Recurrent says it's only $25,000 now, which is still a lot of money for a car, but 2 years ago that was $52,000. So the prices have dropped, so now we can bring more people into the EV fold.
I just, for grins, I went into Toyota and said, if I want to get a Toyota and trade in my Model 3, what would you give me? The trade-in value is $16,000.
Wow.
The sale of it, if they resold it, $25,000.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a markup.
Yeah, a little bit of a markup. And, you know, when I talk to people, I emphasize how much fun the car is and how little money I spend on maintenance and fueling it up. And then after a while, you know, people would go, oh, but it's good for the environment too. And I said, oh yeah. So, you know, everyone knows they're good for the environment, but, you know, they're afraid to get into there. But when the prices are dropping and people know they're not a problem, they're starting to get more interested. And, oh yeah, and then there was tricks about the show itself. They don't really care what kind of car you bring. So if we have a registration packet and somebody's car breaks down on the way and they come in a different car, which actually happened, it's not a big deal. They just, some guy in a golf cart comes by and he hands us a big packet, and you go in there and there's a bunch of registration things. So I learned a bunch of things from Mark Schiller at the very last minute about how to run this show, and I'm going to write them all down in case next year I'm in Peru when the show happens. Because my grandkid, he wants to go to Peru, and he thinks we're going to take him. So, and the Greenwood Knights is the group that puts this thing on, and they were very happy with us. And there was a little bit of friction at the beginning because there was some, I want my car here. So, but we got past the friction, and the Greenwood Knights love us because we are the biggest group, and we should grow because he said the Dachshunds are catching up to us. So there you have it.
Thank you. Well, a few questions.
And also, Raleigh and me know how to do this next year.
Yes, we do.
We do. We know exactly where we're going. We're going to park our cars in that same area as before. We'll turn our flashing lights on, and we're going to go like a fox. We're not going to be parking E or gas icers along this strip.
Yeah,
Next to Kent Market was real nice too.
it was. And there was like, you know, little girls walking around with wagons. Oh, we want to go to, you know, one of them was going to Japan. So you could get like food going by. It was great. Your turn.
What happened to the Super Cobra Jet 1800?
Well, that is the story. Pat McHugh, who is responsible for that car, wanted to come 2 hours early and park his car, and the Greenwood Knights said, no, you can't do that. We have cars all over the place. No. And so Pat was not comfortable with that. That car's worth like, it's probably worth $1 million with all the development. So he didn't come. But I did send him an email and I said, if you do the Ryan method, you never have to take your fancy car off the trailer, and it's better anyway. So I think next year,
He's got lightning tow rings, probably, so.
Yeah, yes.
yeah, Yeah, he was gonna tow it with a Lightning, so.
Yeah,
it
but his,
would've-
his trailer is an enclosed trailer. It's not a
Oh.
flatbed.
Well, maybe we can, talk him into doing something different next year, but
Come up with one.
it was, that car is really valuable and he's nervous about it, so he didn't show. The Greenwood Knights are dealing with 1,000 cars, so they don't really like to be treating anybody special, because it's a hassle for them, so.
Well, I mean, the block we're parked on with a special case, they would only let us park a half hour before the show opened because that's where they were staging all the other cars to park further down the avenue. So most cars, well, that's the thing. Most cars, if they were parking further north, they could park 2 hours before the show. But where SeattleEVA is specifically parked, they're only allowed to start parking a half hour before the show starts. So there was a time constraint there that was problematic because of the way Pat needed to work his car.
Why did Pat wanted to bring it early?
Well,
Because he wanted to set it up and get it all set up.
Also, his car is not street legal. He would have to bring it in his trailer, park it, and move his trailer out of there and get back to kind of watch over the car. And he was only by himself, so that was the other reason he wanted to be with SeattleEVA, so he had other SeattleEVA members that could help watch over the car if he couldn't be there all the time.
There was emails going back and forth for a week about trying to get it organized, and Pat said, forget it. So that's what happened.
Not that show, but two other shows I've been to, they made a point for some reason, where we were, putting a goat petting zoo just at the end of the cars, and the line, and everybody's ball and nurse around.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
It really worked. People are there, their kids are there. Yeah, that was one of those. And I don't know about you, but my kids buy all my clothes. Well, I paid for it.
There you go.
I would have formally said that's a bad marketing linkage, but when people hear GOAT now, they think greatest of all time. So
That's right.
Don't go. Come on now. It was Seattle.
okay.
Sure.
I just wanted to add to that. Thank you, Raleigh, so much. You did so much work on that. So I just came for a few hours and answered questions at the booth because I had just got back from a 1,000-mile road trip the night before. And yes, my car was a mess, so I'm not going to be able to show it. But the people
Yeah.
it was too early in the morning. But the people I talked to, and there were a good number of people who were interested. And our booth, if it was with the cars, would have probably been a little bit better. But with the juggling that we had going on first thing in the morning, that's how it worked out. So some of the people I talked to, the majority of them either wanted one or the other thing. One of them was they already had an electric car, and it's like, yeah, I didn't know this group existed. How cool! And I'm going, well, join us. Thank you. Look, we have this little flyer right here. We have these meetings. We have this email list. I have a great website. So please come get involved. So it was a good way to reach people who otherwise didn't know about us, which is great. The other large group of people are people who wanted to convert their classic car to electric, because you're at a classic car show and most of the cars there are classic. And yes, they think it's a great idea. They see our wonderful conversions and I want to do that too. How do you do it? We sent them over to talk to Mark and about how he spent 12 years doing his car.
No.
And it's like, no, that's not really what I want to tell people, because congratulations to you and an amazing project. But what we want is for there to be answers for people so that they can say, I want to take my car here, and these people will do it for me for this amount of money and this amount of time. We don't really have anything like that as far as I know. So what I'm hoping is that we can maybe try to marshal some more resources, but also, I think we need to, it would be great if we were to take the initiative and try to support or help people start businesses to do converting electric cars. It seems like there's a big demand for it, and it seems like maybe that might be a business we could help people get into, or at least give them advice and customers and things like that. Were you thinking of something? What? Philip? Yeah.
I did a follow-up call with Buddy, our guest electricity guy, and he mentioned, he says, they all want to, everybody want to do this. He said, maybe when I get 2 more employees, I'll switch over, and where would I have a shop? Where would I do this? Can I get some help? I said, maybe come to some of these meetings and find out. I'm not ready yet. Very business.
Well, and I talked to a woman from a small business incubator who seemed to think that there could be grant money available to people who want to do this kind of business for clean energy. So maybe there are some opportunities out there. I don't know. Anyway, it was good to make some good connections there.
There was somebody there, maybe you were alluding to that, but there was somebody there who converts cars to hybrids. And he had told me for $10,000 he'd convert my little mini RV to a hybrid. And I was definitely thinking about that.
Yeah, the blue dot guy. What's his name?
Tom Gursky.
Tom Gursky, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Is he on our website? If he's not, we should make sure we have a link to his business.
Yeah, it's not a going concern yet.
Yeah,
he's still early in prototyping.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, maybe that's something that we can work on, like during the off season, is figuring out how to help people do conversions more. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have.
Can I ask one more question? So, well, first of all, I wanted to mention anyone who didn't go next year. There's one added thing you can do when you're at the Greenwood Car Show. 1 block south of where the electric cars were, there's a church that has free barbecue. So and they said they're going to do it from now on because they've had such good response. What was I going to say about the electric car? I got
Barbecue. Food.
Oh yeah. Is there a way that Rivian and Lucid could be invited to show a car there, even though they're not classics, they're new? So because they're not allowed to have dealerships, is there a way of maybe giving them
An owner and not a vendor would be no questions at all. And we've always tried to have a couple of the latest, greatest models in addition to the classics on display. The one thing we've avoided is having 6 Model 3s in a row. That's Teresa's thing. And there'll be a purple one and a shiny green one and an iridescent dung beetle colored one. All kind of. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that's their territory, and I'm glad.
She knows how to do Easter eggs, though, and have them all just waiting.
Yep. Yes. We are an asynchronous club.
I'm done. Does Abby want to talk about next?
What about the Rivian Owners Club?
Yes.
Rivian Owners Club.
And we have been invited to an event coming up with the Rivian Owners Group. Is that on your radar?
No.
Okay.
The launch event tomorrow night at Pacific Raceway.
Yes.
Who is the original director of Tesla? You know her? Maddie? Yeah, see, she texted me and said that they didn't have it in the budget this year to be in the Green Car Show, but they might do it next year. Because last year they had a great, incredible listing.
Looks like, well, last year they had Electrify X. Like, we did Electrify X program this year.
Yes.
I might add a Tesla club because of her, got some really cool things.
Ready? Okay. Thank you, Grace, for your comments. I think that is definitely something we should pursue, and something that I hope will happen at our event. I know it's coming up July 20th is really soon, but one of the goals of having the electric coffee and cars at the Baki Coffee Museum is to try to inspire people to think about converting cars, and I've met so many people that are curious, and if we can find more ways to share the knowledge, I think that would be really amazing. But either way, I hope you guys will all come, have some free coffee, see some electric cars, see the Baki Coffee Museum on July 20th from 10 to 2. I have a lot of these flyers if you want. I'm happy to give you the paper version, or there's information on the SeattleEVA website. And we don't have as much space as the event we did last year because we're doing it at the Coffee Museum, but we still have space for a few more cars. If you have a car you would like to bring, please let me know either through SeattleEVA or through the museum website. You can send me an email.
And you never know what kind of dividends one of these smaller shows will produce. Last year we had very few members of the general public show up, but some dude pedaled in wearing spandex without a car, and next thing you know, he was volunteering to be our vice president.
We wear random dudes in spandex. That's the moral of the story.
Last year was our first one, so we're hoping we'll get a lot more people this time. But anyway, I hope you can all come. Let me know if you have any questions.
What is that thing out front?
It's the coffee van. The Cleveland electric van was built electric in 1961, and it's still got the original motor. We just put in a new battery pack, and we have a battery pack for the espresso machine, and so we'll be using that to make free coffee at the show.
Well, hasn't it like been rebuilt or got a valve job or
Not much. New
No.
controller.
no new crankcase bearings?
I don't think so.
So I want to take a second to thank Raleigh and Mark for all their efforts putting together a great show. Also, I have heard that the Super Cobra Jet will be at the Mustang car show that's coming up, I believe, later this month. It's a smaller car show. It's only for Mustangs, but Pat does plan to bring it there, so that will be an opportunity for you to see the car if you missed it.
Raleigh's doing a good job, but where are they posting? Because if you're not seeing this, you might forget to go look.
Well, whatever car shows we hear about and are trying to get EVs to, we usually post them on the SeattleEVA calendar. So, yeah.
So, unwisely but concurrently, there was Formula E in Portland on the day of the Greenwood Car Show. Did anyone here attend? Was that a hand? No, just acknowledgement. Well, Formula E, for those of you who know, is a Formula One style electric car race that started in 2014. And thank you to Mark for this vintage collectible inaugural 2014 season t-shirt that he just gifted me, freshly bleached. If anybody finds a way to get inroads into that organization, they are now 2 years in Portland without any outreach or involvement from the local EV community. Even OEVA didn't even get a display tent at the electric car racing event. Very unwise of the organizers. And I think they're struggling to gain traction. I thought it was just the torque, but they've got outreach problems. Other events coming up besides, he says tomorrow night, the Rivian launch event at Pacific Raceways. We have been 5 to 9? 5:30 to 9. Plan on 5 o'clock. Show up. If you haven't watched drag racing before, one of these small local events is a great introduction, and EV drag racing is most amazing when they're lined up next to gas cars. Other events coming up, September 6th, Electrify Everything in Vancouver, BC. The superior competitor to Electrify Expo. I'll be in Vancouver on that weekend. You'll see awesome things like the huge hybrid logging trucks being built from scratch in Canada, and that's Edison trucks, absolutely amazing 6x6 drivetrains. And then any other event notes or announcements? I was hoping, if you would indulge me, for a brief brainstorm on an issue that's gotten a lot of press recently, which is cable cutting. Who here has not encountered a cut cable at a public charging station in our area? 1, 2, 3. You have not.
don't charge low.
You big battery baby, you.
I go far away.
Well, that is something we do have a bit of a bifurcated EV market. The haves who have huge batteries and charge at home and very rarely use public charging infrastructure, and the have-nots who need it for daily transportation. There's people that cannot get home from a normal commute without plugging in, and yet the cables are increasingly being stolen for copper. Posted to the SeattleEVA list the article that I contributed to that published last Thursday in GeekWire. Turns out we are ground zero for cable cutting. There's a lot of speculation about this being an organized crime thing, a lot of ideas floating about how to deter or prevent it, but no solution has emerged yet. My prototype stainless steel sheath cable that I deployed at Tacoma Power made it 3 months before someone severed it and gave up when their cutters jammed halfway through the cable, so it was ruined but not stolen. And
was it repairable from there?
Our electrician doesn't want to re-terminate the cable, and I'm firing ChargePoint because they're useless. But that's another story. The problems with commercial level 2 business models and deployments, and vendors' refusal to sell repair parts, having to scrounge repair parts from other brands of equipment, or salvage from the same generation of equipment that's being scrapped is a real problem. They're in the equipment sales business, and that's about it. And right now, with the feeding frenzy around NEVI funds, federal grant money, pouring cash into unsustainable projects, we're going to see a lot more of it. It's just an full employment act for the thieves. Yes, sir.
Is Tesla experiencing that issue?
They seem to be much better at prompt repairs even after firing the entire supercharger crew. But the new superchargers on Hosmer Street in Tacoma, which has long been a hotbed of inequity, were cut in very short order. New V5s, all with the Magic Dock attachment, they were cut, I want to say, within the first week. Yeah, so it's a big problem. Mark? Aramid fiber. The other prototype cable I built used what we call battle braid, which is a Kevlar braid dipped in brightly colored plastic as a visual signal. And then both that and the stainless steel braid, I put heat shrink tubing around it that is glue lined. So you can't just fillet that fish, you have to laboriously cut through the glue and the aramid fiber and the insulation, and it dulls an X-Acto knife lickety split. But we seem to have an endless supply of vagrants willing to try it once or twice, and that's all it takes. Of course, none of the scrap dealers I've talked to.
Somebody who's paid minimum wage for the neighborhood, kids just keeping an eye on it.
You can trust your car to the man who wears a star. We don't have full service charging stations that I'm aware of, not even the big ones in California with an on-site barista. And so far cameras have not been very helpful. I have several reels of dudes in hoodies with cables slung over their shoulder walking away from Tacoma Power at 2 a.m. Police will not roll on minor property theft at all anymore. So ideas like attaching RFID tags or GPS trackers, it may find a motherboard in a rice paddy in China, but we can't even find it in a homeless camp a mile away from the scene of the crime around here with the lack of law enforcement. Phil? Die packs. That is a project I'm working right now with a business called catstrap.com. They specialize in catalytic converter theft prevention, and they have two products. One is hardened ribbons of steel that, when sandwiched together, will vibrate back and forth. So the sawtooth embed in the first leaf, and then they just vibrate and wear out the teeth of the saw. They're working on prototypes right now. Their problem is they only produce a a flat piece of steel, and I think to be effective with EVSE cable, it needs to be a spiral wrap, and that would be a major new equipment investment, but they're working on it. Their second product looks like a stainless steel braided hose like you'd see on the back of your washing machine or in a brake line, except it's full of high pressure dye. And as soon as it gets perforated by a saw, blue in the face. Takes a good while to, just like evidence of voting in Afghanistan. Blue thumbs. Yes, sir.
Another idea, how about fencing it in and then it requires the key, so you'd have to have an electric car key to let you in the fence.
Fencing the site or fencing the, okay. We've got a plan in the works at Tacoma Power to basically put a metal phone booth enclosure around individual EVSE so that the fob would unlock the booth and then unlock the cable. Anybody used one of the cable reels in the sky? City Light has deployed a few of them. How did it strike you, Dave? You used that cable reel in the sky? Did it work well?
Well, it's stolen.
It was stolen?
No.
It's still working, okay. Because City Light, bless their hearts, deployed the very first one. This is the most expensive but the best level 2 EVSE on the market. It's an automated cable reel inside a heavy steel box. Only after you are an authenticated user does it unspool and deliver the cable to you. Seattle Light put the first one on a 3-foot tall concrete baller.
What's the stop anybody from becoming a user? I mean, all you have to do is you've got an account.
Well, once you have an account, it's easier to trace the theft to you.
Yeah, I guess so.
At least you know which phone activated it right before it got cut. I've also been in dialogue with manufacturers saying, there's a pilot signal, a power pilot and a proximity pilot in there. Just stick a resistor between the two and send out a heartbeat, a pulse of the cable when it's not being used. The heartbeat stops, the cable's been cut. None of the manufacturers have picked up on that. Once again, they seem to be more in the equipment business than the service business. And they'd rather sell me a $5,000 replacement pedestal than a $140 replacement cable. Charge point. Yes, sir.
What if the cable was powered full time so that when they...
That is the number one suggestion and the whole reason that we have EVSE to begin with. We had to get these $800 extension cords with a relay in a box to idiot-proof the process, because in a world where geriatric RV drivers plug NEMA 1450s into pedestals in the rain, EV drivers cannot be trusted to plug in their own cars. So we have to have this J1772 safety-enhanced plugging system.
It's called lawyers.
American lawyers. Anybody seen itselectric.com? It's Electric is finally bringing the European-style business model to the U.S., which, since the dawn of time, around 2010, has been what?
Bring your own cable.
Bring your own cable in your trunk, plug it into the pedestal on one end, and then plug it into the car on the other end. And it worked great during the pandemic. You didn't have to worry about whose grubby fingers were on that handle last. Yeah, you got to coil it up in the snow and the rain and the sleet and the mud, but it's your cable and you own it. It's Electric is considering an adjustment to that model where, just like many of the modern cars that have a little pin that a solenoid spits out so you cannot detach the cable if you're not the owner in command. Well, imagine if that cable were locked to the station during business hours. After hours, the business owner can retrieve the cable, but enterprising owners with their own cable could still use the slightly less convenient version of bring your own cable after hours. One pedestal, two business models. The cable that sucks back in the machine, yeah, that's EVSE LLC. It's the expensive but awesome unit that Seattle Light has deployed a few of. They immediately got into bureaucratic turf battles. Street lights are one department. Transmission poles are another department. EV charging, that's a third department, and you can't hang your stuff on our pole. So Yeah, in Tacoma Power, we had to resort to putting up dummy poles with only an EVSE attached, which totally destroyed the cost advantage of that approach.
Are they all the same union?
No, they're different unions. Can't even rely on that. Yowza.
So rather than each owner having to worry about it, if the car manufacturers could come up with a standard retractable cable, so that kind of like a ship has an anchor that retracts.
None other than John Whalen built his first EV with a cable reel inside the car. The difficult parts of that are that the brushes inside the cable reel are a high resistance point that wears, and any cable that's still spooled up, if the reel doesn't fully deploy, the cable on the spool tends to get hot and melt together. And he learned that lesson the hard way and hasn't done it since. But it is an option. It just requires a much more expensive, maybe a cooled coil or something.
Well, it's sort of a hybrid between what she was saying with the barista and I, a local kid, getting $15 an hour. If you had a franchise, so somebody had their little store, whatever it was, a bicycle repair store or something, and it would be a 24/7 thing, and, you know, there would be somebody in the lot at all times, and they could make money because they have another business.
And Washington Department of Commerce tiptoed into that territory with their recent rounds of grants. They required the host to be a retail facility interfacing with the public, basically having some skin in the game to get the state grant funds. But Fred Meyer's no longer interested. They haven't been deploying EVSE in about a decade, as far as I can tell, huh? No new ones at Fred Meyer's anytime soon. Volta came in with a competing business model, and even though they bankrupted themselves on their first round of venture capital, they managed to find more to deploy free level 2s, destroying the business model of SEMA Connect and ChargePoint and Blink, et cetera, et cetera. And when you back into one of those Volta stations, it doesn't just damage a replaceable post, it destroys the whole station and the big TV screen, and it rips the cables out of the ground in the process. It's really fun, and I've seen a couple of those.
We were in Oregon. We could redeploy the full service gas pump jockeys.
Save the pump jockey. But not even Oregon did that. You can charge your own car in Oregon, which is a great reason to buy an EV. Phil.
So, his idea, provided and your wife would agree, with a Chinese businesswoman, are the best surveillance I've ever seen.
So are Chinese wives, I can say.
Yeah. Run a business there and keep an eye on things. The night markets never lost their thing.
No, they do. Yes. Oh, but first time my wife saw a sidewalk sale in the U.S., she was like, "What the hell? Why doesn't everything just run away? You never see this."
Why does everything run away?
All the merchandise would be gone 10 minutes. Never saw this before. But a fresh idea from Grace.
How long do you think it's going to be before wireless charging is going to be able to replace those cables?
Inductive charging, extra points for who can tell us the last time inductive charging was big in the EV sphere. The EV1 and the first RAV4 had the small paddle inductive and the large paddle inductive, basically a ping pong paddle that you shoved into a slot in the nose.
There's new stuff since then.
There's new stuff since then, and I used to be opposed to it because it was like a 20% efficiency hit right at the transaction point.
They're getting really good.
Now it's single digits, the gap can be bigger, the alignment doesn't have to be as precise, but the coil does get a little bit warm. Huh? No cable. It's buried in the pavement. So it's, and it's a much shorter cable because you just got to go to the spot where all the oil used to drip on the ground. That pavement is soft, so it's easy to cut out and replace with an inductive charger. But It requires retrofits of existing cars. It requires a standard that's not yet agreed to by the industry. Ben Franklin Transit out, not Wenatchee, or is it Wenatchee? We've got a bus agency in eastern Washington, well, just right over the mountains, that has been the pioneer of inductive charging in commercial settings. And they went through the school of hard knocks, but it's working great for them now. And they have an electric bus with a relatively small battery that stays on route all day long, just opportunity charging at the bus stops. Parking over the coil, getting juice. But the coil does get warm, and if Lucky the cat decides to coil up on that, next time a session is activated, the jingle bell on her neck will instantly glow red. So watch out for flaming cats. Yes. Any other ideas? Grace is fresh out of ideas. Ryan.
We just adopt the EU CCS 1, bring your own cable standard.
NEVI banned that approach.
Maybe they were.
The feds don't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like it either, but.
Okay. Well, the feds have seen the error of their ways, and they granted money to It's Electric for demonstration projects in Philadelphia and Alexandria, Virginia, and I think it was the Bronx.
It's just like Visit Europe.
Visit Europe. No, we have to, this is a brand new thing. It's never been proven. We have to test it and spend years studying it before we can deploy it.
That makes sense. I'll check that out.
Yeah. Whew. Anybody read Jim Farley's blog, Why I Love EVs? CEO of Ford. It was amazing, but he talked about how he cruised the country 1,500-mile road trip in a Lightning, and he didn't mention that he ever had trouble reaching the inlet with the charger cable. That inlet is what, 6 feet behind the bumper?
Yeah.
How many superchargers can reach that inlet without parking sideways and occupying 3 stalls?
It's a truck. Yep, up the curb.
Yeah, just jump the curb and bump the station. Yes, Phil.
Burlington is the only drive-through Tesla that I've ever seen.
Burlington.
Burlington.
All right. Yes, sir. New drive-through Tesla superchargers in Ballard at Fred Meyer. That's a good thing. It's about darn time.
Any next topics? Relocation? Relocation.
Okay, one more call for wild hairs and constructive criticism. How are we going to solve this? Wild hair number 1.
Yeah, this one here. How many times have you been asked, why can't we just put solar panels on there? What do you answer?
Elon Musk said they were all going to be solar powered by now, so it's already fixed. Yes, sir.
What would this European model where you carry your own cable, what would be the average cost for a person to buy it?
The cable should retail for $150 to $200. Yeah, and It's Electric, their original business model is join our program and get a free cable. You know, sign up for our subscription-based charging service. But they're trying to replicate the cell phone business of the 90s. You know, subscribe for X hundred kilowatt hours per month and pay a flat fee. That's how the original West Coast Electric Highway failed. Was anybody have a subscription to the AeroVironment DC fast chargers? No, it wasn't worth it, and everybody realized that quickly. Yes, sir.
They just pulled cable from a construction site next near me in Greenland. They pulled his internet cable out down in Renton.
Yeah.
So this model of bringing your own, why not drop in your garage, maybe the solution around here. As you said, do some response property.
Yeah. Any downtown dwellers had their own personal charging cable stolen? That was a big concern back when the EVSC cost $800 instead of $150, and I used to park my car on top of a wooden block with the cable run underneath the tire, and put it inside the hatch and close the hatch on the EVSE with 2 cables being squeezed through the rubber weather stripping. But those fears seem largely unfounded. That's not happening much. Oh, Grace.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I would really love to see that too, because, you know, carrying your own cable with you, okay, it's not that big of a hassle. However, what I'm concerned about is fast charging, DC fast charging, because you're gonna need a bigger cable for that, and it's not gonna be $150.
Nobody has bring your own cable for DC fast.
No, they don't.
And
but that is what people are going to want and need, so I'm not sure that would be feasible.
Anybody remember Staubli connectors, who did a nice presentation for us years ago? And they came a few months ago. They're the only manufacturer that's taken me seriously so far about options such as putting that blue dye in the coolant so the perp gets dyed. And of course that's an after effect. The cable's still ruined. Yes, sir.
What if that cable is 1 or 2 feet long and the stations are redesigned so that you have a standard port to plug into that's going to be within 1 or 2 feet of the...
That sounds like a Tesla supercharger where all the inlets are in the same location on the vehicle. Meanwhile, we got entities like Ford putting them 6 feet behind the bumper next to the driver's door.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to become a new standard, but then
Yeah.
a 2 foot copper cable is going to be, even if it's thick, it's going to be a lot cheaper than 20.
Yeah, that is a valid approach, and a lot of the DC fast charge cables were as short as possible because of resistance. You have to add liquid cooling if the cable gets very long, otherwise they overheat. Yes, Phil.
So nobody's mentioned going to the AMP market, buying it, pulling out all the pumps and putting the pumps through.
Or I have there's a couple of service stations in London that converted from gas to electric and replaced their pump islands with DC fast islands. Or in Iceland, yes, sir.
Is there a reason why cables aren't aluminum? I mean, obviously, need to be thicker gauge material, but...
That was suggested by none other than a pedigreed electrical engineer at Tacoma Power, because all of our transmission lines are aluminum, but those don't have to flex as much as these very finely stranded copper cables do, and they can't tolerate the flexing as much, and microfractures become hot spots, become shorts, and they go zap. That's the fear. Raleigh.
That idea, you could have, well, I have a lock for my bicycle, which is basically links, metal links.
Yep.
It's not a cable. So maybe you could make a cable that is an articulated arm.
Like a robotic Python automated charger?
Yeah, if it's an articulated arm.
Elon promised that, but hasn't delivered it yet either.
Those are only level 2.
Teresa knows this is all good fun.
Yes. So I think Ford dropped the ball kind of on the short extension cable thing. The Ford's Max adapter should have been a 2 foot, 3 foot cable adapter.
Yeah.
To take care of the parking issue thing and to kind of get comfortable with like extending a cable. The downsides are you can't cool that length of cable, so it has to be
Twice as thick.
Twice as thick. It's pretty short, maybe, but I don't know.
But it's also a defensive weapon.
Doesn't solve.
Yeah.
Maybe they can make it a robotic snake.
Okay. So robotic snakes, always energized cables that will electrocute the perp, die packs, resist with aramid fiber or steel cable jacketing.
At the minimum, they should have a cut signal in the alarm.
A pulse in the cable.
Are the pilots a loop? Or they're an open circuit? Like, is there any closed circuit in existing cables?
No.
To detect?
No, but there could be quite easily, I believe.
Could you do a resistance? You do a
And I've had no engineer tell me that's why it can't be done.
Well, so yeah,
They
so
just
we've
say,
got
that's not my
tools-
department.
We've got tools to test network cables, and you plug in the tool that says this is a 5 foot cable or a 50 foot cable or whatever it is. And so if you cut that cable,
Yes.
but that might.
Mr. Yellow.
Okay, so somebody already mentioned that if the cable is cut, the signal could go back to the operator or whatever. But what about a hellaciously loud screeching noise that would
Yes.
disable the person.
Viper alarms can come back. Please step away from the vehicle. You are about to be electrocuted. Remember how fun those were in the 90s? Anybody miss car alarms? But yeah, Phil.
So Shaolin monks
Next. Okay, we have officially come to the end of the brainstorming session. Yes, rock bottom. Though I would recommend Shaolin Soccer as a movie to watch while high. The next item on our agenda, which Rob can remind me of for the third time.
The new location.
The new location. I've made a premature announcement, and I'm sorry if I shocked anyone, but Rivian is vacating this space. We do have one more month here, but in September, we had to find a new home. So your crack team of association administrators jumped into action and found one across the street.
It doesn't work. I already went over there. There's no place to be.
That was my initial concern. They claim they will move out cars for us.
They will move out a car, and we'll bring in the same seats you're sitting in right now.
Not these, but those.
Yeah.
They gotta convert the whole, they're gonna shut down the space?
Yes. Well, they'll have 2 cars running.
And they have a TV screen or anything like that?
They have actually a bigger TV screen and a bigger table for us. And the seating area will be, it'll be a little more intimate. It won't be as spacious. And it won't, sorry for the front row, you will not have cushy couches. But they'll be here and they're willing to have us. And we need to change next to nothing other than going directly downstairs from the parking garage and not cross the street.
So you talked to some management person, because I talked to them today, they nothing about it.
Yes, Teresa wonderfully facilitated that. I met with them. I told them about all the things we need, and they were nodding, and they were thinking, oh, we'd love to take them on self-driving demos. And I'm like, I bet I have a few people that would like to do that. So expect some more Tesla dog and pony as we go over there also. Yes, Phil.
So when that happens, the mall may have the rules against an A-frame sign outside from every meeting.
We can't position it on the sidewalk, but if we cut a notch in the peak of it and put it over your head, that would be allowed.
You have been volunteered, sir.
You just volunteered, Joe.
Our own Shaolin monk is gonna display the same.
A crimson robe and everything. Saffron robe. Yes, sir.
Is Rivian moving to new location?
They're going to be in pop-up mode for the foreseeable future, so they don't know where their new home is going to be. Yes, and we thank the whole team. They've been great hosts.
Yes.
Yes, not to for us not to go through the drama that we did last time where we finally ended here. I think I'll speak for the whole board. That's grateful. We're very thankful that this was pretty much a pretty easy affair. So that works out pretty well. Okay. Any other questions about that? I do have one other item. Update on our survey results. So we're hard at work putting together a summary paper that's right now somewhere around 20 pages. In August, we're going to be in need of a handful of proofreaders / fact checkers. So if you're interested in taking a 4 or 5 page chunk of this and giving it your discerning eye, please let me know. We'd love to have you. Grace is on board. I always count on you, Grace. So that's cool. Anybody else, just let me know.
It's generally bad sport in politics to criticize your successor. One last bit of trivia. See who read the GeekWire article. The DC fast charging station by QFC, right down the block here. Anybody use it? amazing that the EV Club doesn't need charging at their meeting site. I'm so disappointed. Guess how many times those cables have been cut? They haven't been there that long. 22 cables have been cut at that site.
Oh, that's horrible.
We're talking a cool $1,000 would be my estimate to replace a DC fast cable by the time you roll a truck and replace it with a union electrician. Totally destroys the business model. 22 cut cables, yeah.
How about a razor blade model for aluminum cables?
Like Halloween apples? We hide the razor blade in the cable?
No.
Oh.
Just a cheaper aluminum cable that is made to be replaced frequently.
A sacrificial cable. There's so many concerns about electrical safety. I hear my engineers telling us that there's reason these things are expensive and high quality. Anybody remember the great Nissan Leaf meltdown and recall involving cables crimped by substandard machines? Yeah, all of the first generation Blinks and SPX EVSEs had to be recalled, and they sent service technicians to my house to replace the cable because several of them had melted to the inlets of Nissan Leafs due to poorly crimped connectors inside the cable. These things got to be quality. Yes, sir.
So if you were uploading through the Wi-Fi in your house, they would download a software, whatever it was, that would lower it to about 22 amps instead of blowing it at 30 amp level.
The power down effect. That's been the response to so many of our EV battery recalls. Once I get the safety recall done on my Soul, any indication of a problem, and they will permanently limit my capacity to 80%, and I have no legal recourse while they figure out what to do next. And there are people who have been limited for 6 months now. The hamstrung vehicles. Yeah, limited power. I mean, nobody wants limited power, but that may be the fact. Madam, you are staring a hole through me. I think you have got a question. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. Well, we have time for a little open forum. Any questions for our last 15 minutes? Burning issues that you would like to bring to the fore?
Only a very selfish one is new EV owners.
Yes.
When we hear you say what you said about charge point, it's like, oh, we just ordered one of those.
Charge point at home, if you're not paying a subscription for the service, no objections.
The first company we talked to about having home installation,
Synergy Systems. Seattle Electric Plumbing.
and they told me there's no concerns with that.
All right, do you have a carport in an urban area? Or?
An open driveway and a safe neighborhood.
Okay. Well, I've not heard of many issues. Captain Lowe's EVSE was on the wall for 10 years before it self-destructed due to condensation in the conduit filling the box with water. No. Yeah, if your dog hasn't been stolen for medical research purposes, your EVSE cable is probably okay. Yeah.
Any advice on companies to contact?
Our very own long-standing members, Puget Sound Solar, also known as evsupport.com, have a very, very long track record in this business. Too busy to take your business.
Yeah, he's a neighbor of ours.
Okay.
Our new member, EV Guys.
EV Guys.
Somebody that's not a member. EV
Yeah.
Guys. He's looking for.
Yes.
I do have a piece
Hey,
of advice for you. Look for the damn water pipes in the fall. January 1st.
Gee, that sounds pretty random.
Did you drill into the pipe or? Yes.
But I do have my home
Yes. Yes. Reminds me of the day my dad wanted to install speakers on the outside patio and drilled through a hot water pipe in the wall of our wooden parquet living room. Yes. That was wonderful. Raleigh.
Is, if you're gonna put on a charger and you can hardwire it, you're better off than have a plug. No, I did it. Yeah, it's better at hardwire because the plug and that connection can go bad over time. So it's better if you can put hardwire.
I'm a fan of a NEMA 1450 plug. I watch my equipment and I can find it when it's heating. Been doing that for a dozen plus years. But and we charge 4 cars every day off of a single 1450 shared connection. That sucker is pumping continuously. But yeah, it is a downside, and I know Puget Sound Solar no longer likes to install 1450 plugs for EV charging. And you may not put a sticker on it designating it for EV charging. You can use it, but you just can't say that's why you put it in.
48 versus 40.
That's the cord is.
You can't use a 1450 plug for a 48 volt charger.
Right.
That'll melt them down.
Hardwired advantage is 48. Yeah.
The 80-20 rule, 80% for continuous load, and EV charging is always a continuous load. Okay. We are running out of subjects before we run out of time. My goodness. We gotta, if anybody didn't see the beautiful cars up on the deck, including the guy who showed up in a blue tuxedo, I mean blazer, it's available for a look-see. The long fabled Ultium system. I love General Motors marketing.
Where's that blazer made at?
Where in the blazes was your blazer made?
I thought it was Mexico.
You don't say.
Because it said a lot. Texas.
So it has that Mexican smell to it?
So that's how they were able to give the American Auto Workers Union such a generous raise. They just sent the business elsewhere. Ah.
It's on the batteries at $7,500 discount.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you take delivery? April.
Okay. Right. And what?
Because I have a gas blazer and I love it.
All right. Anybody ask you if it's going to burn?
No.
Okay, we've had burning bolts. I just hope we don't have burning blazers. That would just be too bad. But yet again in the utility, the safety topic for my meeting tomorrow morning is EV battery fires, myth or menace, because we continuously get questions about it. People who are comfortable with pouring 5 gallons of gasoline from a plastic can next to a red hot lawnmower muffler are afraid to plug in a car. That's just the world we live in.
As they should be.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Kevin.
Yeah.
You've been silent, but look deadly.
Oftentimes you'll have somebody come up to your car and go, oh, these are the ones that catch fire. Here's your ammunition. An ICE car catches fire in the United States once every 45 seconds. Vehicle fires from gasoline cars is the second most common cause of fire, second only to improperly discarded cigarette butts. They catch fire all the time. The only reason it doesn't make the news is because it's so commonplace it doesn't deserve mention.
Yes. Pedigreed studies have placed the incidence of ICE fires versus EV fires at between 20 to 1 and a minimum of 20 to 1. A pedigreed Swedish study most recently put the number at 80 to 1 for ICE fires versus EV fires. And that's in a cold climate where it rains all the time.
The other day I drove past a Stingray on the side of the road that was engulfed in flame, and there were 8 vehicles there and a fire truck there, and I said, oh,
there goes Chevy's stock price. Oh wait, no it doesn't, you know.
That's normal.
Yeah, exactly. People go, yeah, they get part.
Is that adjusted for the larger number of?
Yeah, it's a percentage
Oh, okay.
per capita number.
Wow.
Yeah. And anybody got a good term for, I've spoken of vehicle mortality rate a few times, as in how many cars are still on the road X years after they were built, and people get confused by that. They think that means their drivers died. So the idea being that an electric vehicle drivetrain can last 20, 30, 40 years more easily than a gas drivetrain can.
Usable life?
Service life, usable life,
Average life.
average lifetime.
So the Model 3s now are, some are approaching 400,000 miles.
400,000 miles.
Without doing anything to them.
That sounds like irresponsible owners.
Model 3s? Model 3s.
The average gas vehicles, the top gas vehicles are 225,000 miles. Now, those are like on the top 10, 4 of them are Toyotas. But, you know, they only last 225,000 miles. And I expect my car, my Model 3 to last longer than that.
No, they're up to 400,000 now.
Yeah.
And even the Model S and older technologies, a lot of them make it up to 400,000.
Preach on, brother. Yes. All right. Phil.
So, I know I'm kind of dominating this, but people ask me all the time, because I go to these other car shows that they're happy with. And going is, well, how fast would the battery be great? Of course, the lead is faster than the Tesla. So it does about 1%.
And there's a lot of bad information out there saying that the Leaf batteries last 20 years when none of the first gen Leafs have got 80% capacity anymore. They're just parroting bad info. Our friends at Recurrent Auto are among the worst offenders because they don't have any data on a vehicle with less than a 4G modem in it. As the vehicle ages, it falls off of their quality survey. Wow, imagine that. So EVs last forever and their quality is great. So we got to be careful about exaggerating our benefits. I don't know. Okay, well, please stack chairs and talk amongst yourselves, and we can let the Rivian folks go home a little bit earlier than we normally keep them. Thank you very much.
Be nice for the walls. Stack the chairs against the brick, please.